another key change. Oh God, oh no, big nightmares for you and me.
So,
All right.
but no, I'm glad to see just before we get rolling and everything. Glad to see everything opening up for you, man. And like I always say, the one thing you find out is that you need to leave your area.
Oh, definitely.
This is a comfort zone. This is cool. There's a lot of things that will get you started. But once you get out there, you have to make that effort to get out there.
Sure.
You know, and plant your seeds, and that's what makes you grow. That builds your integrity, your talent, your chops, professionalism, all that stuff. You know, it doesn't happen until you get out there.
Oh,
But
definitely.
see some good stuff going with you, man.
And
Very
like,
proud.
if you're not just, you know, getting out for like some sort of artistic or professional endeavor, even just like seeing more of the world, I think is important just for, well, for
Yeah.
everyone.
And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that ability or that knack to do that. You know, you've got to set goals for yourself, you know, and try to meet them. And you know, that's the way it rolls. You know.
Definitely.
But so anyhow, like I said to you before, the book coming out, there's certain things I have to keep under tabs. But I will share a couple things with you, which I think you'll find are kind of enlightening and interesting, funny. But it deals, you know, with gig nightmares and the things that, you know, the things that happen. So you know, just kind of opening it up. I mean, uh, it's great to be on your program. Gig nightmares, it doesn't get any better than that, right? You know, and as you know me for a long time, Max, my career right now is 62 years that I've been in this business, man. I started in 1962 as a 5-year-old kid. My uncle pulls me into a recording studio, make a record. You know, he was a big-time promoter in Philly, Jolly Joyce Agency, and different things like that. But I don't want to go too much into detail. We'll kind of center around some other things. But by 1965, that's when I started getting into the drums. I already had watched Ringo on the SL11 show and made my mind up that's where it was going to be happening. You know, so by '69 is where I made my first stage appearance.
All right.
That was it, man. I was done, you know. But in 1970, what happened was that I got invited to join the Hazleton Philharmonic. I was living in Hazleton, PA at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was 13 years old. And they wanted me to join this 101-piece orchestra, symphony. Can you imagine it? Violins, you know, cellos, violas, all the horns, the whole section. It was crazy because it came out to me as a young kid, gave me a lot of opportunities. So now I'm in a percussion. I'm actually the percussionist. We had one other older gentleman, Jack Smith, and he's a lovely guy. But I was the predominant, you know, percussionist. I'm playing traps. I'm playing the bells. I'm playing timpani. I'm playing sound effects. But I'm also reading music.
Hmm.
You know, and it doesn't get no better than that, man. You know, learning your craft, but learning it really correctly and theoretically and stuff like that. It was a big springboard, you know. So in '72, I stayed with the orchestra for about 3 years, and I was still rocking out, you know, and exploring other territories. But in 1972, I was told we were going to form this big band. Now at the time, naturally Chicago, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Chase, Lighthouse, all these horn bands are on the top 40 radio. So I'm, you know, digging all that stuff. When they say about this horn band, I'm thinking this is great because at home as a kid, my mom and my dad played like Glenn Miller records, Benny Goodman, Harry James, so I was familiar, you know, with the big band sound. So they were going to go out and recreate what was happening, you know, in the 1940s with, you know, with charts and everything like that. And I thought this was off the wall. I was just really raring to go, man. So I started, you know, buying a lot of Benny Goodman records and, you know, studying the music and all, getting ready for this thing. So in '72, we do a couple gigs. I'm 15 years old, by the way. And I get the message that we're going to be playing at a vacant lot on Broad Street. Now, Broad Street was the main drag in Hazleton, okay? That was back in the old days, you know, the main streets were littered with, you know, stores and people, and it was just a great time, you know, to be alive and be around all this stuff. So on the one corner of the of Broad Street, we had Carmen's Restaurant. And then this vacant lot was there because they tore a house down or a business or something. And then next to it was a furniture store. So there's this major lot, and that's where they're going to have this show, okay? So, you know, I'm 15 years old, and naturally, you know, at the sign of the times. Well, like, we didn't have any dress code like that. We really had to show up in black and white or, you know, anything like that. So you came in your street clothes, okay? So I get dressed, and at the time, I'm a short guy, 5'5" or whatever, and I've got, you know, dark hair, long. It's part in the middle, coming all the way down to my shoulders, okay? A jean jacket on. I've got a pair of blue, was it light blue corduroy pants, and they're tucked into my moccasin boots, okay? Now, if you're looking at me, what would you say? Hippie, right?
Sure.
Okay, so keep that thought. All right, so anyhow, uh, I was, you know, young. I didn't have a license, so how did I get around the gigs? Matter of fact, while this was all going on, I was also playing every Saturday night at the Club Kirkwood in Harwood with a trio called the Key Three, accordion player, guitar player. So my mode of travel, just like today, you know, you've got Uber and all, I would take taxis.
Hmm.
So I called a taxi to take me down to this vacant lot. So I pull up, and it's like a dirt lot, stone and things like that. It's kind of on a hill, on an incline, you know. So I get up there and I start setting my drums up. Now, if you were passing by and you see this is kind of weird, you know. Well, anyhow, so I'm up there and I'm going to town, you know, I'm setting the stuff, and I was always a firm believer, Max, in professionalism to the extent of punctuality. You know, if your load-in time is, you know, 7 o'clock, I would be there 10 to 7. It's the way I was, and that's the way I was through life. I still am that way. Anybody can tell you that. My kids are the same way. You know, it's all about part of the business, you know, punctuality. So I get there, I'm setting up and everything, and I guess I started, you know, banging on the drums, and I remember them reverberating off of the sides of the two buildings that were joined, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm up there for a while, and I look down front where the street parking is, and all of a sudden I see this police cruiser pulling up. So he pulls in front of the vacant lot, and the cop gets out. So he's walking up towards me. I'm probably halfway in this, you know, this vacant lot, and he's walking. And I approach him and I said, "Excuse me, officer, can I help you?" He says, "Yeah, what are you doing here?" I said, and I explained the situation to him, and he started laughing. He went nuts. He said, "Oh God," he said, "That's okay. Everything's okay." He said, "The reason that I came down is because we got a couple of calls down at City Hall, and people were saying that they think there's a hippie that's up in the vacant lot, and he's on drugs. He's setting his drums up." No, no, so nobody was there at all. I mean, it's just, you know, little OB. You know, you know, it's a nice Twilight Zone moment. You know, not exactly a nightmare. You know, but nevertheless, you know, it was a crowning achievement. You know, for me, it was funny. You know,
Do you remember how the turnout was for the show then?
I think we did pretty good actually. Yeah, I know the music was great. You know, for what, you know, but I always had, you know, fun, you know, doing, you know, those things with the Philharmonic. So as I mentioned, as things moved on, I had a rock band in high school called Tammany Hall,
Mm-hmm.
1972 to 74. I was in from sophomore through my senior year, and we were like the Catch Me On Me. We were playing every weekend. We were not only playing like teen dances and stuff like that. We were playing the clubs, man. You know, we had 4 agents. We had 4 booking agents. We had one in Summit Hill, Earl Rebold, Harry Meyer in Hazleton, Sammy Scally in Hazleton, and there was another gentleman. But we were always working, you know. But in '74, my mom got remarried at the tail end of it around September. So I ended up moving down here to Pottsville. So naturally, I don't know anybody. You know, I got to play, man. You know, I put an ad in the newspaper, some different things, but I had a big jam session at my house. And eventually, by March of '75, I got introduced to 2 guys, keyboard player and guitar player. Keyboard player played mean bass. We decided to put this trio together. We called it Jet, because of our initials, John, Eddie, and Tom. How cool is that, right? So this is summer of '75, and we were playing all the local haunts. I mean, in those days, Max, as a matter of fact, we can't see this because it's no video, but this is how it looked, Max. I'm showing a newspaper from 1983, the Pottsville Republican, every week. Okay, they'd have like the Friday, Saturday edition, and on the back page, they would put all the clubs and all the bars. I mean, look at this thing's littered. I mean, if you want to go out, you want to see what was happening that night. We didn't have the internet, nothing like that. You pull up the newspaper. Holy cow! Look at this. Richie Molinaro's over at the Middleport Inn. Hellbilly Fever. Eddie Collins is at the Innsbruck with the Mudflaps. It was crazy. There was a lot of entertainment.
I didn't realize the Lame Goose was around.
Yeah, the Goose was. Yeah, exactly. All these legendary places. Telop's Lounge up there, but there were a lot of places to play. That's my point. It's not like today where it's really a different world in a lot of aspects.
Yeah.
We could be talking about that, for the next hour and a half. But there was places to play. You were working all the time, and with Jet, we lasted about a year and a half. It wasn't too bad of a run. We had some things that came up, and I believe our keyboard player John jumped ship to go with Fat Robbie and the Mudflaps, which were a big oldies 50s 60s group on the circuit. So in I think it was springtime of '76, I decided to regroup this Jet, and we brought 2 other members in, and we started to put it back on the planet. So what happens is around the early spring, I wanted to get a new drum set, and I had my eye always on a maple drum kit. I loved that finish because Carmen Appice of Vanilla Fudge was a big hero of mine. I loved him. I loved looking at his kit, the color and everything like that. So a friend of mine told me about Cinti Oldies in Philly. So I went down to Cinti Oldies, and I walked out of there with a brand new set of 1976 Slingerland drums. Maple, okay, 2 times 9x13, or yeah, not 9x13, 10x14, floor tom, 16 or 18x16, big floor tom, and 2 24-inch bass drums. And at that time, that was setting the world on fire. Everybody up here, now we're going back to the 4-piece kits, in the 20. But back then, everybody wanted everything bigger. The bigger the PA, the bigger the monitors. So I got 2 24-inch bass drums. This beautiful kit, and I was so proud of it, man, because I was going to go play that weekend. So I told a bunch of my buddies about it, and so everybody's going to come down and see me at this little old club in Pine Grove, PA. And I didn't even have cases for the drums yet. They were in plastic bags, wrapped around. But I'm so psyched up. I'm going to, debut these drums this weekend, tune them all up and everything. So we go to this place in Pine Grove. Now, matter of fact, mind you think about it, we played there a number of times before. Never an incident of any problems at all. Okay, so we do the show, and the turnout, let's say it was a little off. Okay, let's just be honest about it. It was a little off. My friends were there in support, seeing the new drum kit. Yeah. So it comes to the end of the night, and back in those days, if you were a pro, you had to belong to the musicians union. Okay, that's just the way it was. I belonged to Local 139 in Hazleton.
I remember you showed me your card before.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I still have here's my book. All they did, the union, it was supposed to be like a protection. That if you did a show and the guy ran out the rig, on the contract, whatever, that you could hold, that would hold water. Wrong. It didn't. It was just a piece of paper between you and the client. But it was standard, and we lived by it. That's the way we did business. You sign on the dotted line. Okay, you have me. I know I have you for that show, and that's it. We didn't have, the ways we have now. With Facebook messages and texts and all this stuff. This is how we did business, or mail, or whatever like that. So I booked this show, and the guy signs on the dotted line. So it comes at the end of the night, and now we've got a different story. We pack everything up. I go to get paid. Go to the bar, and I'm not going to mention the club. Let's protect the innocent or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Or they, I don't know if they're mob connected, so I don't know if the people are still alive. But anyhow, it was in Pine Grove, Pennsylvania. Okay, nice old bar. We played there a number of times, and at the end of the night, we pack it up, load the truck up. I come back in to get paid, and we agreed. And I have the contract right here. This was May 27th of 1977. Okay. And the wage agreed upon, $140. So keep that in mind. This is a 4-piece band.
Yeah.
Okay, $140. So the guy says to me, he said, here we had a bad night. I can hear the violins playing already, So he starts going into his, thing. Well, I'm sorry, I need my full gate. Now it starts going, it's a pissing match, going back and forth, okay? And it's going on for a little bit, and it's only $140 max. But back then, the value of $140, was like 300 today or whatever. You know, like the gas. I think, yeah, gas was like 50 cents a gallon. You know, you could get a Coke in a machine for a quarter. You know,
Yeah.
it was a different world. So 140 bucks. You know, but this guy just kept going back and forth to the point where on the last straw he gets the upper hand, and I say, you know, give me the money. Give me. He reaches underneath the bar, and when he does, comes back out, and I'm looking down the barrel of a rifle. At that moment, you know, it's like, what should I do? You know, so I immediately thought about Steve Miller. What would he do? He would take the money and run, right? So I took the $100. We bailed out of there, never went back. You know, but these are the things, you know, that you live and you learn. You know, you're 19, 20, you know, 20 years old or whatever. But I played, you know, locally, you know, for a couple of years, but I always had my sights on bigger things. You know, my goal was to be on the road by the time I was 21 years old. Me and Debbie were married at 18, you know, had our first kids at Keith at 19. So we were already, you know, our family was growing. I had aspirations that didn't change, you know, and they still haven't changed. You know, I might be 67, but I'm still goal oriented. You know, I know what I want for the next year. You know, you have to keep those dreams alive. So my dream was to go on the road,
Hmm.
and uh, it was ready to happen at the beginning of 1977. I got a call to go on the road with Danny and the Juniors. Now, Danny and the Juniors in the 1950s, they were there at the helm of rock and roll when it started. You know, look at 1955, 56. Danny and the Juniors came on the scene in 1957, a song called At the Hop, Hop, Hop. Let's go to the hop, right? They had, there was a million seller. Rock and Roll is Here to Stay was the follow-up. That was another big seller. So the long story short, which you'll read about in my book, is how this happened. That I got with Danny and the Juniors, okay? So I was all ready to go on the road with them, and we had something that fell through on the last minute. But it wasn't the last hurrah, because 2 months later, I got a call to go on the road with the Drifters,
Mm.
you know, equally great, or maybe even to a greater extent. They're legacy Rock and Roll Hall of Famers now, you know, look at their songbook, Under the Boardwalk,
Love that
Up
song.
on the Roof, you know. I was ecstatic, man. I was 21 years old, getting ready to go on the road. That was my goal, you know. And I can remember all the great times driving to Philadelphia in my '70 Hornet. You know, the door wouldn't close right, so would open up when I was on the turnpike and stuff, you know. But getting with the Drifters was great, you know. So when I got with them, the issue was at that time that naturally they were predominantly they were black, you know, front act, and they had a black backup band. But the agency was having some hard times with the work, and they felt if they made it a Salt and Pepper act, bring a white backing group in, they'll have more, you know, work available. So that's where I entered with my group. You know, I put the group together. I had a guitar player was with me at that time, bass player from down here in Auburn, and we got a keyboard player through the agency in Philly. You know, so we started rehearsing as they were in Tennessee with the band doing shows. So I was back in Philly with the group and, you know, rehearsing the tunes. I would sing the tunes, the group would learn them and everything. So we eventually get our first gig that we're going to go out with them, and this would have been like the latter part of July of 1978. So we played the Holiday Inn in Wildwood, New Jersey.
Right.
I'll never forget Joey D and the Starlighters were up the road, you know. So, and the gig had some issues, but it was okay, you know. Nevertheless, 2 weeks later, now we're ready to move on. You know, we did some rehearsals and stuff, and my first real official week with them was going to be in North Conway, New Hampshire. The White Mountains, you know, beautiful country, at a place called Barnaby's, which they had done a number of times before. Was it 6 nights? Yeah, we did like 6 nights, you know, like Monday through, you know, whatever. So anyhow, on the day that we're leaving, I got to Philly, and the way that they would travel was with a Dodge passenger van, okay, which you could put like 9 people in there, maybe some, you know, some bags or something like that. And we had a small U-Haul that they rented. We would put the instruments in there, and we had a small, Shure Vocal Master PA, the columns, you know. And we had a PV head, which had the old big knobs on it, and the chrome legs that, you know, screwed onto it. So we would travel because many cases you weren't supplied PA and gear. It was just novel. That's the way it was back in those days. You didn't have in-house and stuff like that in those days. So we load everything up, and Marvin, the leader of the Drifters, wants me to drive the vehicle. Okay. Now, I think I drove the vehicle, once before when we were in Wildwood, but not to an extent of going on a trip. I've never driven a van on a trip, let alone, 7 people in it, a trailer on the back. But I'm thinking, well, I got nothing to lose here, man, So I get the keys, and the Drifters get aboard, load everything up. We hit the road. So we're leaving Philadelphia, and it has to be around 7 o'clock in the morning. So coming out of Philadelphia at 7 o'clock, you can imagine. I mean, that's major, that's morning traffic. Everybody and his brother wants to get to work. Yeah, exactly. So as I'm driving out of town, I'm hitting the Schuylkill Expressway. And whammo, and I used to be an aggressive driver. I got an education within 5 minutes, man, So I'm driving, and on the side of me, these trucks are whizzing by, and now the trailer's starting to sway back and forth, and I'm dropping my drawers, man, because I'm like scared shitless, I'm not expecting this, But I get my composure, and eventually now I got it together, and as we're driving. So now we're coming out of Philadelphia into Jersey, and now it's starting to get more relaxed. Now the Drifters would like to pacify the time sometimes by having a little substance. Okay, let's say it that way. So they choked up, and by the time I got to Jersey, everybody's passed out, So we're coming into Jersey. Everything, now I'm calmed down. I'm driving this van, and everything's going good. And I look in my left mirror, keeping a tab of things at back of me, and I see that there's a police car. And the beacon, the bubblegum machine's going. He's pulled me over. Hey, boy. So I look, ahead of me, and there's a Sunoco gas station. Okay, well, that's the next best place to go. So I pull the vehicle over. Stop. Everybody in the truck is sleeping, So the cop comes over. I wind down the window, and he says, license and registration. So I got my license, but of course, I don't have the registration. For all I know, intended reasons, Marvin owns this vehicle. It's in my head, it's all I know.
Yeah.
So I gotta wake up Marvin. Marvin, wake up, man, wake up. What? I said, there's a cop. We're stopped here. The cop stopped us. What do you mean, man? And I said, he wants the registration. So now he gets himself together, opens up the glove compartment, and he gets the registration. So he gives it to him. Okay, so cool. The cop goes back to the car. He's back there for quite a while. Comes back up. He says, we just did a make on this, and this vehicle's stolen. And I said, what? Marvin goes, well, no, man. He said, first of all, we couldn't even see your license plate, because the license plate must have broke off the mount on the back, the back tailgate. So what they did, they stuck it inside of the window. Now with the U-Haul, you could not see that. So number one, he's pulling us over. Then when he sees the plate, the plate's outdated, and then he runs it through, and it's a stolen vehicle. Okay, so that's where it's at. So now they want everybody out of the van. Okay, so we all get out of the van, and they're going to frisk us. So we all before that, one cop says, anybody have to go to the bathroom? Go now. Meaning that if you have anything you shouldn't have on you, go dump it. He gave a break, right? So we're standing out there. And they're patting us down, and they get to the keyboard player. Rolling papers. He's got a roach clip, a little baggie of pot. Okay, so now we're there. It's like another half hour. Next thing you know, there's another cop car coming up and a tow truck. So what they want to do now, they're taking us down to the barracks because they want to interrogate us, and they're going to impound the van. First thing I'm thinking, you got to be kidding, man. They're going to take my drums apart, So we get to the barracks. This is in Edison, New Jersey. And I remember like it was yesterday, you know. So we get into this. They take us into this room to interrogate us, and there's all these what the heck? I guess like closets and lockers and stuff like that. And we're seated at desks that are like reminiscent of when you were in school. You know, the type that wrap around. They got the little thing in the front. You sit back. You know, so we're sitting in these school desks, and the first thing that they want is all of our, they want ID. So we're passing up the ID to the next guy. Next guy's passing. You know, so we get our IDs to the to the to the one cop on the desk, and the other guy's standing aside. So now I knew these guys, like maybe 3 weeks or something like that, and I knew them by their names, of who they told me they were.
Sure.
So all of a sudden, I hear the cop starts mentioning names, and mention the guys in the band. Then I hear he goes, Sam Gardner, and I'm like, who the hell Sam Gardner? We have no Sam Gardner.
So they all have like stage name.
Well, yeah, this is what it comes out to be, because all of a sudden I hear is, I'm over here. It was Marvin. Like, oh, okay. So then the cop has a passport there, and he's looking. He goes, Kennard Watkins. He goes, that's me. And he looks at it. He says, that's you? You look like you died and you came back again. But it was Kenny Knight. So it's like, what the hell's going on here, right? And then we're detained for a while, and they come back about like maybe 45 minutes later, and apparently this van was leased. Marvin had leased this van through some lady. After all this stuff that they put us through, all this interrogation, all this other garbage, they found out that the van was legit. The lady verified it. Okay. So now we're free to go.
All right. How much time do you have to get back to
Well,
the gig?
that's my point. So anyhow, after we're free to go, the keyboard player has to go pay a $30 fine first, make everything look good. So we hop back in the van. Now, it is like around, I'd say probably around 11 o'clock noontime, okay? We're back on the road. So we're traveling, we're boogieing now. And I wasn't driving. We had somebody else drive then, one of the other guys, naturally. So we get into New York, and I forget what section, it was around Queens or something. But when we get in there, all of a sudden there's some smell that's coming from the engine. And it's like, it smells like rotten eggs, like sulfur, So we pull into the nearest gas station. The attendant comes out, opens up the hood. He says, oh boy, he says, I can see what's wrong here. Voltage regulator went. Okay. And he says he can fix it. Okay, so he's got to go to the parts store, get the regulator. So now another, say 2 hours go by. Say maybe it's like 3 o'clock now. Okay. Naturally, our show is 8 o'clock at night. We still have time to get to New Hampshire, right? Well, so say now it's 3 o'clock, right? So we get back on the road, and we're driving, and we get into around Boston, Massachusetts, and all of a sudden we hear bang, like what the hell? And we get out, flat tire. Okay, no problem. Let's just go change the tire and get the hell back on the road, So a couple of the guys go in the back and they look and they go, uh-oh, what? Well, we got a tire and we got a rim, but not together.
Oh.
Can you believe it? Okay. Well, now we got an issue because we've got 7 people in here. We've got a trailer and we've got a show to be at tonight. I think we're supposed to start at 8 o'clock or something like that. So there was a McDonald's, which was like about a mile away that we had passed, So a couple of the guys went and figured, well, let's go down and see, if we can get some food and maybe we can rent a truck or something. So they go down, they get some food, and they rented a 24-foot U-Haul. 24-foot U-Haul. So we get in the back. It's like Hogan's Heroes, the TV show. We're all sitting in the back. We couldn't see because it's dark, so we got flashlight in there. We're sitting on the bottom of the floor of the truck, and they had to put they closed the door and they put the U-Haul on the back. Okay, naturally, you have the ball that on the truck so that you put the the hook and from the U-Haul on top of it, and then you put the chains on. so everything's ready to go.
Sure.
So we're driving, and all of a sudden I hear boom, like what? So they stop the truck, and we get out. Here, like about 10 feet behind us, is the trailer. They forgot to put the chains on the trailer. So we get back in, and it's already pitch dark out, so you don't know what time it is. And the funny thing when you think about it is why maybe when they got to a fault or something, why didn't they call the club, call somebody? Because our bass player and guitar player were traveling on their own. So nobody knew where we were, I mean, anything could have happened, they could have, got really frantic and started calling the hospitals, calling the police, because they knew we were on the way. So we get back, we get the trailer back on, we drive, and we get there, Max, 1 o'clock in the morning.
What's the point of even getting there?
Well, 1 o'clock in the morning, and we got a whole week to do, right? The club owner was ballistic. He went freaking nuts, right? Somehow, I guess between Marvin Leader, the Drifters, and the booking agent, Norman Joyce from Jolly Joyce Agency, I guess they mulled him over, because we were on stage the next night for the whole week, Unreal, but we could be here for another show of Gig Nightmares, talking about the escapades of the Drifters. But there was a lot of things that happened, and you'll read them in my book, our audience as well. As a matter of fact, it'll be coming out in the fall, published by KDP Amazon, so you'll find it on all the Amazon platforms. But the escapades of the Drifters. But it was a learning curve. What I'll say is this, Max, is that you learn the good, you learn the bad, from touring on the road, seasoning. Matter of fact, my son Eddie now has been touring with as the stage manager and guitar tech with Anthrax, and he's got stories up the wazoo, about South America and this and that. Same thing, working with Guar, and all my kids have worked with the Nationals. Keith did Blue Oyster Cult, and Carrie's worked with Jackal, and Chris has done some things down south. So they have their own war stories, but these were mine, and it made me into a great individual, because I understood, the things that can't go wrong, But then when you get a situation where things go totally right, it's different. I lasted with the Drifters. I stayed on for 6 months. There was a lot more stuff that came down the pike. Yeah, when you read the book, you'll enjoy some of the things that transpired, and you'll see why I had to move on. But the gigs after that were more rewarding. The drama wasn't there, the issues weren't there, the money was a hell of a lot better. You're going to read some things in the book that you'll go like, wow, he stuck around for that, after that. But you learn, and in this business, it's all about, it's not just getting up there, and playing a guitar, singing your butt off. There's a lot more to it. There's business, and understanding of how to deal with people, how to deal with situations, and make the best of them. I had a good sound man, matter of fact, for many years, and you know him as well, Greg Semanco. Now, Greg was my sound tech with the Rocket 88s for almost 14 years. And we ran into so many different situations. If it was power, if it was this or that, Greg had one motto, and it was, we'll make it work. And we always did. You figure the ways around it, But that's a couple of my gig nightmares. I hope you enjoyed it, and our audience. And it's always a pleasure to be in your company, man.
Thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Gig Nightmares. Gig Nightmares is an independently produced podcast made possible by the support of listeners like you. If you enjoyed this week's episode, we would appreciate if you left a rating and a review for us. Gig Nightmares.